843. And from all of us here at Mike Scott Plumbing, thank you for your service.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I have some go-to people when it comes to asking questions about topics I really don't know much about. One of those topics I don't know much about is sports. So this morning I was asking Galen Unold from Life South Blood Bank about how to pronounce the name of our next guest, and so I'm going to give it a shot. Barry Svrluga. I think that's how he said, right?
Yeah.
Barry is, oh gosh, this is such an honor too. Do you know, when I listen to the sports programs that we have here on the radio, all weekend long, we have Fox Sports.
Yeah.
So I do listen and I do enjoy it, even though I'm not really a sports guy. So a lot of it is like a foreign language to me. What is not like a foreign language is when they talk about how their car broke down, when they talk about how they went out on the town and had some great pepperoni pizza, or maybe they have some more risque kind of stories to share. It's always kind of fun. But then when they get back into scores and statistics, it's like, oh, well, okay, it's la 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 la. But either way, it's still fun to listen to because it's optimistic, it's positive. Nobody's arguing. Well, sports arguing is not real arguing.
Yeah.
Sports arguing is not like politics. So it might be to a sports fan. I don't know. So Barry Svrluga, I hope I'm saying your name right. Barry he's been the beat reporter for the Washington Redskins and also the Washington Nationals, which is basically what this book is about. The book is called The Grind, Inside Baseball's Endless Season. And just real quickly, to piggyback on what I said about the other things aside from the sports, that's what this kind of has in it a lot. It has the wife, it has some of the other people surrounding the players as well as the players themselves. The Grind, Inside Baseball's Endless Season, Barry Svrluga. I hope I said your name right once or twice in that. Oh, good morning, Barry.
Good morning. You nailed it.
I did?
Yeah.
All right. Which part, Barry or Svrluga?
Svrluga, yeah. Nicely done.
Where are you right now?
I'm in Washington, D.C.
Well, thank you for being on the air with us. Is this a fun type of a subject to write about?
Yeah, and I think what's fun about it is, when you are a baseball fan, you're really used to the way that you consume the sport. You're flipping on the TV at 7 or 7:30, and every night kind of drinking in your 2.5 hours or 3 hours of your favorite team, and that's how you kind of live your life in the summer. It's a really nice way to kind of paint the contours of what a summer is for a fan. But what the book is supposed to show is what goes on in order to get not only the players but everybody else with an organization in position to put on that 3-hour show. There are families involved. There's countless staff involved. There are really a lot of unsung heroes behind the scene that set up a team and make it work. And the baseball schedule, in that it's 162 games in about 183 days, is just relentless. It really defines their existence, and that it reaches every part of an organization.
And we get to meet real people in this book. I mean, the Chelsea Desmond is a real lady. She's the real wife, right?
Yeah, and here's a kid who grew up playing sports herself in Sarasota, Florida. Met Ian when they were in grade school. Ian is the Washington Nationals starting shortstop. He's been an all-star before, one of the best at his position, and she really takes it as her responsibility to keep their family together through what is a very, very unusual existence. These folks are really kind of reticent to describe their lives as a burden because they're in part of a $9 billion industry, and the players make millions of dollars, and there's a lot of things that they're afforded that regular folks aren't. But when you strip that away, if you're trying to hold your family together, and when I reported the chapter on Chelsea and Ian, they had 2 young boys and another on the way, a third that was born in October. Chelsea really thinks it's important that the little kids get to spend time with their dad. So that means adjusting. Yeah, they adjust sleep schedules so that these 4 and 3-year-old kids can be up at 11 p.m. when their dad's getting done with their game, and they can spend some time, and dad can read stories before bedtime, and then they sleep in the morning. And then, he's off to the ballpark at 1 p.m. People think these guys get there for a 7 o'clock game at maybe, 5 or 6 or something. No, they're there at 1 in the afternoon, and they've got a whole routine. So in order to keep the family together, the wives are doing a lot of logistical magic to make it happen.
You talk about the general manager, the reliever, the wife, as we just mentioned, the 26th man, the glue. You know who you don't mention? You don't mention the journalist. You don't mention your job. Is your job also greatly affected by their schedules?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many beat writers have said to me, well, you could have written a chapter about us, and yeah, you definitely could have. The beat writer's job in baseball is it's a tough one. They're not the men and women who cover these teams generally aren't at 162 games, but they're probably at 140, and they're at spring training for 7 weeks, and they're not getting to the ballpark at 6:30 for a 7 o'clock game. They're getting there at 2:30 in the afternoon or 3 in the afternoon, and then fit in the 24/7 news cycle that we live in today. They're not just building a story for the next day's paper. They've got demands to feed their websites in the morning and at all hours when news happens, because fans want analysis and news not 24 hours later, but in real time. So we could have written a chapter about that. It would have felt a little self-indulgent.
Since you're that familiar to the team because you cover them, and other sportscasters and sports writers are, do the teams sometimes have fundraising events and then they play a game and they invite you guys to play with them?
Play a baseball game with them?
Yes, for fundraising events or something.
That'd be cool.
There's stuff like that. The teams definitely, all these teams have charitable arms and are really focused on being involved in the community. They're such big entities and such public, it's almost like a public trust element. They're companies, but they're very, very visible companies, so they know the impact that they can have in a community. The writers, the journalists' kind of role in that is pretty objective and distant and at arm's length. You've got to balance kind of really knowing these characters and understanding how they work and how they approach every day, and who's different and who's a little prickly and who's really friendly and who can be approached at different times. But you've really got to be objective enough that if a guy's struggling, you're able to articulate why that's happening in a very fair kind of way.
Wow. So being that close to the team, does it enhance the game itself as you're watching it, or when you're that close, does it kind of take the magic away?
Well, you've got to be careful. I mean, I think what you do know is you are able to analyze and appreciate a given situation on a given night. You're able to because you know the team and you know the characters so well.
Right.
You're able to take something that happens in a game and say, that's really the key to this game. I can latch in on that. I know who to talk to. You don't want it to be a burden. Sports are a joy. The next day brings hope. If the team's on a losing streak, they are trying to think about it the next day coming to the ballpark as, well, this is our opportunity to turn it around. So while it does wear on the folks that cover the teams, you've got to be able to, just like the players do, step back and appreciate the good things about what you're doing.
Do you know who I could relate to was the scout, Chris Klein, and here's why. Because I'm into music more than sports, and in music you have what they call road managers, and the road manager is kind of separated from everybody else because he's ahead. He's the one setting up the concert, and the act doesn't even get there for a few months. Mm-hmm. And in the Scouts' case, I mean, he's doing stuff ahead of time. He's ahead of everybody else.
Well, and he's really less concerned with whether the major league team, won or lost the night before, or is in a losing streak or a winning streak, because his job, Chris Klein's job as the scouting director, is to prepare for the next year's draft and scout and see and evaluate and form opinions on an entire class of high school and college kids that are going to be the major leaguers of the future. So it's a very weird job where you're really in this nitty-gritty, where you're on the road and living very isolated life. He's spending upwards of 200 nights a year on the road, driving from place to place, coordinating flights, evaluating weather. If I'm trying to see this kid in Oklahoma, but it's going to rain. Can I go someplace else and find somebody else to see? The payoff for that is years down the road, when that kid that he saw something in a kid that was they took in the 14th round, and he makes the major leagues, and he becomes part of a successful major league team. That's the payoff, but it really takes patience, because in a lot of times that payoff is 5, 6, 7 years down the road.
This book is to the Washington Nationals as the song "Angels of Fenway" by James Taylor is to the Boston Red Sox. Mm-hmm. I think the fans love that song because they're fans and because James Taylor's a very good songwriter. Mm-hmm. And I think the fans from the Washington Nationals are going to love this book because it's a very delightful book to read. And you know what? Even from a non-sports person like myself, I just love the human part of it. That to me is exciting and interesting. Well, thank you for being on the air with us, Barry. You know what I'm going to do? Instead of giving this one away on the air as I normally do, I'm going to hold this for Galen, because Galen will like it. Okay. Barry, do you have a website for the book?
Just postsports.com is where all my stuff is. It's available on Amazon, and at any bookstore you should be able to go and buy a copy.
All right, and just let me repeat the title. It's called The Grind, and Barry's hold on. I practiced this, I promise you. Svrluga.
There are family members that can't do it, so don't worry.
Barry Svrluga. Svrluga. Well, once you say it, you got it. It's looking at it that throws me. Barry Svrluga. Svrluga. If you need to type it in there. Barry, thank you for being on the air with us today. That was a great interview.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Fun stuff. We'll take a little break, and we will be right back.
I found the doctors at New Male Medical Center. Wow, they made a new male out of me. Feel like I'm 25 again. I have renewed vigor, so much more energy, and no longer worry about my performance. New Male treated me like my situation was one of a kind, with a custom treatment plan that really works. I feel great. They can create one for you too. It does not matter if you suffer from low testosterone, erectile dysfunction, or just want to last longer. New Male will help you.
Call New Male Medical Center today at 352-404-4779. 352-404-4779. That's 352-404-4779. It will change your life. 352-404-4779.
Hi, I'm Leah Caruso with Strive Rehabilitation, inviting you to join me